Hey, this is Derry and welcome to the Diamond Life Design Series, video 5. We're going to hit into the Marathon Des Sables a little bit more today. So a little bit of a rewind, go and watch the other videos because we went into the depths of the why in video 1. We took it into across the areas of life and why that's the critical big place to begin in video 2. We then looked at the vision and the depth of vision in video 3. And in vision 4 we looked at the milestones, right, which is why we must bring vision home, why we must bring the areas of life into execution and more like milestones of what we're going to do next. And using Kosciuszko as an example. And so today I want to just bring it home even further into execution. Now, the difference between a life that's just accidental and a life that's designed is we need to execute it. People who know me from my work in strategy and strategy on the page in particular, you recognize that I'm here about creating visions in business, architecture in business, strategies in business, but I like to see them executed, and that's the big gap in the business world, right? And it's the same in life. We can actually get excited. We can set these things up. It's called, think New Year's resolutions, right? It's like, oh yeah, this year I will be this. And then it never happens. So why? Because we're not disciplined enough and architected enough in our execution. So now I was on a roll, going back 15 years now. I was already starting. I was starting to map clearly the areas of my life and understood where things were missing, right? I had a clear vision now across all those areas of my life, and I was clear on the objectives over the year. Now I'm talking about adventure, but at this point I bought a beautiful home. I'd relocated out to the countryside because I reckoned I didn't want to live in the town anymore. I'd discovered gardening again, and I was really deeply into uncovering organic gardening and how I could be self-sufficient and all this kind of stuff with an orchard. So I was really looking at lots of different areas of life. It wasn't just adventure, so please don't take that context, right? But adventure still continued. Now, I'd done Kosciuszko, so I was already on a roll, right? I was like, okay, I've done one of the things. And this is the thing, you need a win, right? So when you set up life, and you set up the areas of life, and you set up the vision for life, let's get a win under that, because that builds momentum. Kosciuszko built momentum. It gave me a win, right? It gave me I'd already proven to myself that I was stepping up and doing what I said I was going to do. So now it's time for a big one. I still think this was probably a little bit too big and a bit stupid, but I decided to pick off the Marathon Des Sables next. It had been a burning thing in the back of my mind for ages, and to be honest, at the time, I got drunk down the pub with a friend, and my friend dared me. So that's kind of where it began, right? I don't even drink these days, just as well, although I do even more stupid things, right? But that's where it began, like 15, 16 years ago for me. And when you commit to something like the Marathon Des Sables, for those who don't understand it, it's the Marathon Des Sables it's called Marathon of the Sands. It's 6 marathons back to back across the Sahara Desert, carrying everything you need to survive on your back. Now I know what you're thinking, and it's not as easy as it sounds. It's because on the first day you do a half marathon, and on the last day you do a half marathon, and then it's marathon, and in the middle they send you across the longest sand dunes the Sahara has to offer on a double marathon. That's why it's called the toughest foot race on earth. Now, I decided this would be the next part of the adventure for me. Now, please understand, I was a rugby player at this point. I was 17 stone. My idea of running was over about 20 yards into people. I'm flat-footed and I'm asthmatic. So don't look at me and think I'm an endurance athlete. I have literally changed my body shape over a 10-year period to be more towards that now. But I'm still flat-footed and I'm still asthmatic, right? So it was a massive stretch for me, massive stretch. Now, what was important here? So it was important, I was clear that adventure was important to me as an area. I had a clear vision of this, of which it was part, and I had my clear now 1 year off, and it was 1 year for Marathon Des Sables. Now the rubber hits the road, right? And now we're going to jump. You're starting to see I'm missing a couple of areas here, but I'll come back to them, don't worry. Now the quarter, the month, and the week was critical. To imagine the training plan you have to put around to be able to achieve something like that, I brought my coaches in and did an awful lot of work. But I needed to be clear on the mileage I needed to do in the quarter. I had to map mileage in the quarter. I needed to be disciplined in the week. I needed to know exactly what I was doing over the month. So the quarter, the month, and the week were now critical time components for that. Now, equally, I was not just doing that because I recognized, hang on, life of no regrets here. I really want to do this adventure thing. However, I really don't want to mess up other areas of my life by doing this. I recognized this is what I'd done in business. I recognized I'd sacrificed a lot of things for my career and my business, and I wasn't prepared to do it. I was still in career, and I still wanted adventure, but I wasn't going to sacrifice my relationships and other things in my life as well. Now, do you hear what I'm saying here? Isn't it easy to go after something that we really want, like the Marathon Des Sables, or your career, or your business, or health and fitness, and be obsessed on that one thing, and again, negate everything else? So this is where the planning really began for me. This is where the quarter, the month, and the week planning rigorously began. But I needed to plan in the Marathon Des Sables training amongst all other areas of life to ensure that I wasn't just solely focused on that. Don't get me wrong, certain things had to be sacrificed, but not at the expense of truly what's important. See you in the next video.